Hey everybody, and welcome to my overview and review of Sanssouci. This is a game by Michael Kiesling, and if you hear that name and it rings a bell, it's because he designed all of the azules, and I am a big fan of Azul as an abstract game, despite me sometimes having a lot of trouble with abstract games and spatial concept games. Those are really challenging for me. I don't avoid them. I try to dive right in, and I did with this game mostly because it looked really puzzly, but I also was a big fan of the designer. So I backed Sanssouci, and now I'm going to tell you about what is going on here because this is one of those games that has very little luck. Now, you are shuffling a deck of 18 cards that give you opportunities to draft tiles to then place into your personal garden, but that set number is not different. It's not changed, and you are going to have those cards, and you know exactly what cards you're getting. You can never reuse them, and you can't discard them. You will be playing every one of them one after the other. So there are 18 turns in this game where players play one card down, draft a tile, place it in their garden, play passes, and it's just continuous until the end of the game, which takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. So you play a card down, and it's going to give you one of three choices. The first one is a color combination, and what you're going to do is look out into the central board. There are going to be 5 areas, purple, yellow, blue, orange, and gray, that are available for you to pick from, and there are 2 tiles in each of those areas. So you look and you say, I've got 4 choices of tiles to pick, and those are just drawn randomly from the bag, placed out in the area. And so if you have a color card you play, you pick 1 tile from either of those 2 colored sections. You take the tile, and then you place it into your board in the corresponding column of the type of garden structure you took, matched with the level or the color that you took it from. And that's where the puzzle game begins, because it's determined, the placement is determined not just by the type of structure, but where you took it from in the central kind of market area. That is so fascinating. Now, the other kind of card that you might play is a structure card that says, take this particular structure. And the same rules apply. If there's that particular structure, let's say it's kind of like a, what do you call those, a topiary? Maybe it's some kind of, fern or bush. And you take that type, and you will place it out onto your board based on the place you took it from, one of those colored sections. Now the last card is a wild, and that just says take any of the 10 tiles that are available. And that's your best card. Save that card for when you really, really need it. Because when you play a card down, you have to do what it says. Now, if you play down a type of garden structure and it isn't available, you can take anything that is available to you out in the display. So there is a little bit of flexibility whenever you can't do your card. That means that you can take anything that you want. And when you want to play a tile down, but you've already placed one in that exact space, it turns into a gardener. You turn the tile over and you place it in the row or the column that matches the type or that matches the particular color. And that gives you even more flexibility when it comes to placement. So there's a real strategy with gaining those gardeners because you've already played that particular type of garden structure. Now, after you play a tile, you can move one of those figures that are at the top of every single column, and you can move them on a path that follows these rules. You have to follow pre-printed paths, gardener paths, or structure paths. So anything that has a connection, that's the route that they follow. And they have to end up in the same column they began in, but they don't have to stay there the entire walk. So you're walking them, trying to end them in a space that gives you that number of victory points on the side. So you look and you say, I walk them down essentially to level 3, I'm going to gain 3 points. and that's how you gain points in game. There are other ways to earn your victory points at the end by filling in columns and rows. You're going to earn victory points as well, but this is all about that continuous race, that taking a tile, you're drafting it. Based on the cards that are in your hand, you have 2 to pick from, and you'll play 1 card down, drawing back from your draw pile into your hand. So you always have 2 to pick from. You place that tile into your board, and then you move one of those figures. And it's just really cool because you have goals as well, and that's another way to earn victory points by completing your goal by moving your figures down to the bottommost space on that particular column. So I think it's just a real puzzle, and this is such a tight game. I noticed that we were just constantly in the same 5 victory point grouping, maybe trading spaces throughout the game, pulling a little bit ahead, but not by far. And so when it came to the end, it was really down to some of the tile draws, the luck of pulling the tiles out, needing a particular type and there not being one, or there being one, as well as filling in your rows and your columns, and then of course gaining your personal objective victory point cards. That was another real determinant for the winner. Now, while there are 2 mini expansions for this game inside the base game, one of which adds a new tile that you place on top of your player board, and everybody's player boards are slightly asymmetrical, so it makes sure that every player kind of has a slightly different configuration of starting opportunities. This new expansion puts even more pressure on players to accomplish certain goals. So I think that's a really great mini expansion. And the other one is the wild boar. And the wild boar is going to hopefully be trapped and not allowed to run amok in the garden by the end of the game. And so the whole goal is to kind of slowly pen the wild boar in and or run them off your board. And I find that to be a really, really fun challenge while you're still doing everything else in the game. So for me, I thought this was a really nice, light, abstract puzzle game. I'm not sure it has the same stayability, the same replayability as perhaps any of the Azules. And so I'm not sure how long it's going to stay in my collection. For me, abstract can sometimes be a little bit of a disconnect because the theme is just, barely there. But I think this one has just enough puzzle to it to make it really fun and engaging. And there is this lack of luck in that you know what cards you have and you're never going to see those cards again, and they are balanced based on the type of garden structure and the color, and then there's of course the wild card opportunity. So your deck is essentially what it is, and as you go through your cards, you know what you've been playing, you know what's essentially coming up, so you can kind of plan that way. And the tiles that come out, you can kind of tell, well, we've had a lot of these kinds of structures come out, but not a lot of these, so that means that there's more of those still in the bag. So you can kind of plan it that way, and there's just enough to play with in that center 10 tile area for the market to draw whenever you have to pick either with color or with your garden structure type. I will say the tiebreaker kind of rubs me the wrong way, and I know it's silly and I know it's picky, and just maybe people might disagree with me on this too, but the gardener tile you flip over because you're not able to place your tile down in the space because you already have one there, is essentially the tiebreaker. Whoever has the most gardeners on their board, which means it's not the side that it's supposed to be on, it's the other side. And for me, the gardener gives you so much flexibility of playing where you want to play and essentially becoming a 4-way walkway that it is really nice. Having gardeners is actually really nice. It's very helpful in the game, and it kind of adds a level of, I say flexibility, but also adaptability in that when you play it the correct way is very strict. It goes here and that's it. There's no way you can put it anywhere but the place it meets. And so to say that the person who placed the most cool freebie flexible tiles breaks ties, I kind of think that it should be the other way around. The person who has the fewer amount of gardeners, who played more correctly, more according to the cards that they played, that person should break the ties and win. But that's just me. Maybe I'm misunderstanding how the gardeners work, but the gardeners essentially work like any other tile in the game. It says in the rules very explicitly they aren't played any different, and they're not treated any different when it comes to walking and making connections and making rows and columns. They act as tiles and they act as connectors. So that might be my only, real persnickety piece. We'll see how long it lasts with my abstract collection and with my collection of Michael Kiesling games. Thank you for checking out what's going on with Sanssouci and if this game is just right up your alley, because you never know. You might want that 18-card puzzle game. Boy, it's got a real fun puzzly feature to it. All right, folks, I'll see you next time. Bye!